Hello, everybody. Welcome to class with Professor Mead. Before we get started with the article lecture, there are some terms that you're going to need to know so that you understand the lecture a little bit easier. So some of the key terms: sex, gender, gender identity, cisgender, intersex, gender binary, transsexual, and gender dysphoria. Some of the terms that tend to be understood incorrectly are gender identity and cisgender. So make sure you pay attention and that you know the term correctly, right? So when we talk about somebody's sex, we're talking about hormones, chromosomes, internal biology, and external biology. So you can be male-bodied, female-bodied, or intersex-bodied, meaning that you have both male and female, either external genitalia, internal genitalia, like your ovaries are internal genitalia, or you can be intersex. You can have some combination of both. You can also have hormonal or chromosomal combinations. Now, everybody has a combination of male and female hormones. What we in America think of as male and female hormones, but women tend to be have less testosterone, but they're more sensitive to it. Men tend to have less estrogen, but they're also more sensitive to it, and that also changes over your lifetime as well. Gender is the perception of who you are based on masculine or feminine traits that society deems as masculine or feminine. So it's not necessarily how you feel about yourself, but much like race, it's other people's perception of you based on social norms, values, and mores regarding gendered behavior. This is why human beings are gendered, but animals like your pet, cat, or dog is not gendered, because they don't act masculine or feminine based on society's perception of masculinity or femininity. Gender identity, however, is your sense of oneself as masculine or feminine. So your gender identity and your gender are not the same thing. Think about it as your gender is placed on you, or the perception of you. Often we agree, and our gender identity is the same as how others perceive us, but that's not always the case. Cisgender, and this is another one that is commonly misunderstood. Cisgender means that your body and your gender match. It has nothing to do with your sexuality. You can be a cisgendered gay male. That just simply means that you are gender identity. You feel as though you're a male. Your sex is that you're male-bodied. And your sexuality doesn't have anything to do with it. So think of a masculine gay male or a feminine lesbian female. They would be cisgendered, and that often is confused because people don't understand that you can be gay or lesbian but also be cisgendered. Cisgendered is your sex and gender only, not your sexuality. Your sexuality is who you are interested in and how you identify your sexuality and your behaviors. All of those make up part of our sexuality. Intersex people is anybody who has a sexual anatomy that doesn't fit into the typical definition of male or female body. And many people who are intersex have what is commonly called androgen insensitivity, meaning that your body doesn't respond to androgen. And so that can create some form of variation in your internal, external genitalia, but it is to do with hormones. That does not mean that everybody who is intersex has androgen insensitivity or that it's necessarily a hormonal issue. It's just one of the common ways in which somebody will end up being intersexed. A gender binary has to do with the idea that we are, as a society, only have two genders, that you're either a male gender or a female gender, meaning you're a masculine gender or a feminine gender. We're starting to accept that people are gender non-conforming or gender neutral, not exactly the same thing. So gender non-conforming is someone who just simply doesn't conform to society's ideal type of the masculine or the feminine. They're making a conscious decision. Usually, not always. Gender non-conforming and gender neutral is similar, but not exactly. So it just means that you tend to present your gender in a more neutral way, meaning that you are likely to kind of, act in between. Not necessarily that you're not conforming, but you tend to, fall in that middle spectrum, neither, aggressively male or aggressively female. A transsexual person, so according to Lisa Wade, who writes these definitions, it's a person who experiences gender dysphoria and goes through the process or wants to go through the process of changing their sexual identity. You can actually be, there are some arguments that say you can actually be transsexual, especially after you've finished the process without having gender dysphoria, but the medical community essentially says that if you don't have gender dysphoria, they're not going to do the medical procedures. Gender dysphoria is simply when you feel as though you're in the wrong body. If you're in a female body but you feel like you should be in a male body, or vice versa, that's gender dysphoria. Okay, some of the groups that you should know about that we're going to talk a little bit about as we move into the article that are connected with this article. And there's links here as well if you're interested in them. Androgen Insensitivity Support Group, Intersex International Accord Alliance, and Intersex Society of North America. So these are groups that have emerged over the past 20 to 30 years, largely in response to the medical community's push to make people into male-bodied or female-bodied. And these people who had these surgeries when they were babies grew up and have something to say about it. So they've created these organizations, people within these communities have created these organizations as a voice for themselves and to be able to advocate for other people who are intersexed. So Androgen Insensitivity Support Group focuses on promoting and supporting, educating people. They try to do outreach, and they also try to foster healthy outcomes for adults and for children and for families who experience somebody who's intersex within their family and or themselves could be intersex. Intersex International is a decentralized global network of intersex organizations. So they're bringing these organizations together and aligning them. Accord Alliance, which is actually an acronym, so it should be all caps, promotes kind of the comprehensive and integrative approach to care and wants to promote understanding and actively works within, with the medical community, with families to connect and give them information so that they can promote healthier outcomes for the children before they have surgeries and for the families who are experiencing somebody who has differences in sex development for whatever reason that is. Intersex Society of North America wants to actually change some of the problems that we have systemically. So the way that we label people, for example, on a birth certificate, they're trying to end the shame and the secrecy. They are actively against the unwanted genital surgery. So they advocate against doing surgeries on babies or doing surgeries on children before that person has the right as an adult to make the decision for themselves. And they are not trying to, they're trying to advocate against this idea that people need to be male-bodied or female-bodied. And that's it for our pre-lecture lecture. This is your reluctant YouTube professor signing off.